interactive team building thought process when it comes to trying to structure this core and archetype. But yeah, we're gonna have to go ahead and find out how they pan up against each other, as we've got a mirror lead from both of them, thinking pretty much the same thing. Incineroar and Golden Go all around.
Yeah, well, the speed interactions here are definitely going to be very important. You can see here that Eric's Incineroar was the one that got the Intimidate off first, so probably the faster out of the two. But do you want to go for the fake out trade-off and maybe get it wrong here, waste a turn, and you can't fake out into the Golden Go anyway. So I think the thing that you could try and do is maybe attack down into that with a Flare Blitz. You are intimidated, so you aren't really getting too much value out of it, but any damage onto the Golden Go would be useful. Obviously, both Golden Gos don't know the speed interactions yet, so this is why we're seeing the Protect from David's end just this turn, and a fake out from Eric's into the opposing Incineroar.
Yeah, fake out, but no defensive play from Eric, so just going for that guaranteed chip damage. So quite a nice little initial read there from Eric, just being so brave when it comes to anticipating David's more defensive approach there.
Yeah, and I think that's a nice option there, just going for the Shadow Ball into the opposing Golden Go there, just in the Incineroar there, just in case it does terrestrialize. It has got the grass terror typing, though, not like the ghost terror typing that we've seen in previous forms. But Eric just coming out the bats, really, because he's got the choice specs on his Golden Go. He's locked into that Shadow Ball. He's going to be able to really threaten the opposing Golden Go on David's side of the field now, so it does have to be careful. That is not holding the choice specs item. It's holding the leftovers, so it's probably a bit more bulkier, but hasn't got enough to be able to kind of deal with that attack. But we're not going to see it, the Comet all coming into the field.
No, both Golden Goes actually going ahead and switching out, maybe one in anticipation of the other's more offensive approach, as Knockoff was trying to target down David's Golden Go, but did actually get rid of the Assault Vest. So once again, we're talking about how both trainers are trying to anticipate and actually act upon in very similar fashions when it comes to understanding the board state, both going for Knockoff there.
Yeah, not wanting to take any big risks early on, and that's so understandable, because I think if you lose one of your really important pieces like that Golden Go, then things start to kind of crumble a little bit from your side of the field. So you can see the tentative approach, both players here. We're going to see the fake out from the Iron Hands just to prevent potential Iron defense set up from that Comet hole.
Yeah, and a bit of a slow play from Eric's side, getting that parting shot and pivot action going. Now this Iron Hands will not be able to deal as much damage as it would have initially liked. But more importantly for Eric, this gives you the opportunity to make that switch in, but also become susceptible to a knockoff that may be coming out from this Incineroar on David's side.
And that's exactly what we are going to see. Great call there. Not effective, but will remove that Assault Vest item, which makes it a little bit less easier to deal with. You know, if you are David, it's going to be easier to get the damage onto it with your special attackers, in particular that Golden Go later on in this game, especially if it does decide Eric wants to go down the route of terrestrializing that Pokemon.
Yeah, so both trainers really trying to tread lightly here. They don't want to fully commit just yet. They're still within the reading stage of each other, getting more familiar with the play styles, as we're going to have two switches here. The Amoonguss is now in for that Iron Hands, while the Golden goes back on the field, whilst that Iron defense is starting to set itself up. And we know that this Incineroar does not have any sort of like Will-O-Wisps and whatnot, so it's not going to be able to directly threaten it at this current point. And more importantly, we know that this Comet-O does have the Overcoat ability, so it's going to be able to be immune to those spores coming out from the Amoonguss.
Yeah, a really good call there, because the Overcoat protects you from the spores, from the sleep, so you're pretty free in front of this Amoonguss to just get yourself set up. Really nice switch there as well from Eric because of the good as gold ability, blocking the parting shot, not allowing the Incineroar to pivot out. And now you've got it kind of pinned in here, where you've got the body press pressure, you're almost forcing the Amoonguss to stay in the field, and if the Incineroar doesn't switch out like we are seeing here, go for the Rage Powder, and allowing the Golden Go to get some big damage off this turn.
Yeah, as we do have just the Rage Powder coming out right now, we know that even though the Overcoat is the ability of choice on this Comet-O, it can still be redirected. However, we've got the Shadow Ball focus into the Amoonguss, and apologies, I may have misspoke there. The body press was trying to focus down into the Golden Go.
Yeah, nice switch there from David, just to kind of alleviate that body pressure from that Incineroar into the Golden Go, but it is going to be a little bit pressured here. The Amoonguss going for the Rage Powder Costa. It is going to pull in that big Shadow Ball from the Golden Go. Can the one on David's end set up or get some damage off into the opposing Goldinger to remove it.
And it did actually pick up the KO. The Amoongus is out of this game one. You had that redirection option. It sort of did its job as long as it allowed this Golden Go to get that nasty plot set up. It is faster than Eric's Como O, and it is at +2 right now. We know that it doesn't have any damage boosting items, does have leftovers, but yeah, you got to be very scared and very respectful of a +2 Golden Go.
Yeah, the +2 coming out now. The fact that it has access to Protect as well, and the partnering Pokemon that David's got access to, both of them have, you know, Fake Out here, so they can stall out a turn at least from this Como O and potentially get some advantage here. The problem is, though, if Eric's Goldengo is faster than David's, then it is going to be able to get a Shadow Ball into David's. Potentially with the Choice Specs item, it might be enough to pick up the knockout, but the thing that you've got to keep in mind here, both players still have access to the terrestrialization. It's maybe something you can take advantage of, especially if you are David, knowing that the opposing Goldengo on Eric's side is locked into the Shadow Ball, where you terrestrialize into the Fairy Terra type, you're not as threatened by that Make It Rain.
As we will have the terrestrialization coming out from David's side, it is going to be the Golden Go with the Fairy Terra. So this is something that you really need to take into consideration when you're facing another Golden Go, whether you're able to actually go ahead and anticipate any Make It Rains that come out that may be super crucial and pick up the KO. So it's very much a position of understanding whether you want to go for the risk or not.
Yeah, that's a big end. We are going to see the Shadow Ball into the Goldengo on David's side, but after that terrestrialization, able to take it, followed back up with a Shadow Ball into Eric's Goldengo and a huge knockout.
It is out for the count. One hit, KO onto Eric's Goldengo. Goodbye. Have a good day. As we've got leftovers recovery going ahead and bringing up a bit of an incremental recovery there. But we've got the situation, like we've mentioned, that now Fake Out is available. It is going to be able to connect with that Golden Go. Maybe forces it to play a bit more defensive here, because surely you want to better utilize yourself in order to position and pick up a KO onto this Como O, but there is the Ting Lu that we need to remember about.
Yeah, of course there is, and I think that is something to just keep in mind here, especially when you are prone to taking a Fake Out this turn. You don't want to lose it after taking such a nice advantage that last turn, so protecting it here. It has taken a lot of damage, though. That's a problem, and the Como O has had a couple of those iron defenses set up, so even though it will resist it, it's still going to be doing big damage. And if with the Como O, if you're able to get one more, you are going to be able to kind of start really hitting everything on David's side of the field for good damage, even though it's resisted by the Goldengo. The damage that it's taken so far, especially if a double up comes into that slot potentially next turn, then it could be under pressure to be taken down.
Yeah, but I'm quite curious to see if Eric has actually focused the body press into that Incineroar slot now, which was the Iron Hands, in order to capitalize. It does seem to be the case. It does pick up the KO, and it forces the Iron Hands as well as the Golden Go to be the final two remaining Pokemon from David's side. But it's not completely over yet at all. These are sort of the Pokemon you would want to be able to have available if you are David, as we know, since the Overcoat ability is the choice ability on that Como O, it can have Shadow Ball focused down on it since it doesn't have Bulletproof.
Yes, this is very true, and I think now you've still got the +2 with the Goldengo, so you've still got access to a big Make It Rain if you want. You've got the Fake Out support next to you this turn. I think you've got to try and focus down on getting the Como O, but it's so easy for Eric here to just protect it this turn, burn that Fake Out, and then have the ability to throw out another body press the next turn. Potentially use your Incineroar here to get some good damage onto that Goldengo to try and remove it if you are Eric.
Yeah, and it's sort of up for grabs right now. Who wants to go on the offensive? Surely you feel that David has to do this right now, needs to go. Oh, actually goes for the setup right now. This is as well a bit of an offensive play if you think about it, because we know that the body press will not... Oh, I was going to say it's probably not going to pick up the KO, but guess what? It is enough to do so, even if it is a Fairy Resist. The Golden Go is not safe.
That is a huge turn for Eric here, picking an opportunity to get rid of that big threat. David doing everything correctly there, going for the nasty plot, knowing that he needs that extra power boost to remove these big threats on Eric's side of the field, but just getting caught out, unfortunately. Eric not getting swayed by that Fake Out pressure from the Iron Hands and saying, right, if you Fake Out into me this turn, that's fine. I might not be able to attack, but if you don't, I'm going to punish you.
Yeah, just playing straight is the name of the game right now, at least from Eric. And it's sort of what we're saying, being able to comprehend the necessary things that you need to when it comes to the board state intimidates and what sort of like follow-up actions need to be made based on the current pressure and whatnot, who has the advantage. So being able to actually go ahead and terrestrialize the Golden Go, it's good on one end, but also on the other, it's not as efficient when it comes to the body press still being an option available for the Como to focus down on, because we saw multiple intimidate cycles, right? So we know the Iron Head would not have been able to dispatch as much damage output onto the Golden Go, but it's more so that you removed your immunity to the body press.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think that's a big important thing here. You have to really, when you're looking at Eric's side of the field, the Como is definitely the big target for you if you're David. You need to have a look at what options you've got to be able to deal with it. Does the Ogre help you in this situation? Probably not, because the follow me is great and all, but then what are you utilizing on your side of the field to kind of get rid of the Como? It's very difficult. You have to go down the route of that Goldingo, and you have to try it, potentially remove the opposing Goldingo before yours is able to kind of freely operate.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly
the big problem for him, and I think Eric really has identified that and is able to kind of really take advantage of the situations. You know, it looked a bit dicey for him in certain parts of that game, but still finishing up 3-0 at the end there. So it's a real uphill battle for David. I think utilizing maybe something like the Poison Terror type of Porygon 2 could be an option, because you're hitting that Como on its special side. You're not really having to worry about those body presses, and if you do terrestrialize as well, then you are going to be resistant to those fighting type body presses. It could come out.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice shout, actually. You just want to be able to perhaps focus in on allowing to hit the special side of the Como. You just need to be able to get rid of it and not allow it to get that sort of setup and be put in that position as it did. However, we do have the leads. This is game 2, Incineroar, Golden Go over on Eric's side, and a bit of an adaptation over on David's side. We've got the Incineroar, but now the Iron Hands. Double fake out potential. Depending on the situation, however, you may want to just try to get some pivot action going.
Yeah, and I think the one thing you could really try and hone down on if you are David is trying to get the knockoff onto the Goldingo. Now, that you remove the choice specs and you do give Eric a bit more flexibility, but you take away that big power option that it's got access to, and it hasn't got the protect, so it's not as free as David's to kind of come in, get set up, and then protect while you position your fake out users next to it. You have to be a bit more careful with it if you are Eric, but that is going to be one option to try and start with the Incineroar on the field here, but not going to see that fake out from the opposing Incineroar. And a trick coming out, Costa.
A little trickster of a Pokemon, that Golden Go, might I tell you, as the Choice Specs has now removed the Assault Vest in a trade-off situation there, which is going to really limit this Iron Hands. You know, now it's going to be able to be susceptible to more special offensive damage coming out, whilst being limited to only one move slot each time it arrives onto the field.
Yeah, really making it difficult, especially if you want to reposition it later on in this game. You're not really going to want to lock into that fake out, because you're going to lock yourself into that, and you kind of put yourself in a position where it's obvious where your opponent can target into it, not need to worry, and just really take advantage of a potential switch in that situation. Now, the Goldingo are going to really probably benefit from the Assault Vest, especially against the opposing Goldingo, if the situation comes down to it again, because that special defense boost, although you can't use any setup options because it does have Nasty Plot there, you're going to have that support there to make you one-on-one situations a lot better.
But here we go with that board adaptation and pivot action going. Incineroar on Eric's side is going to be moving first because, of course, we've already established that interaction of speeds with the Intimidate. It does get that drop onto the attack even further for the Iron Hands, not going to be dealing as much damage. And because of that nice switching and the Incineroar being faster, the parting shot is blocked from David's side, as well as the Drain Punch. Such a clean switch out there, and you've got a Como on the field.
Yeah, and it's a really great switch from Eric, just catching both of those options from the Iron Hands, so getting the Goldingo in on that Drain Punch, knowing it's locked into that. Complete immunity there, and the good as gold ability, blocking that parting shot, pinning these two on the field, giving the Como an opportunity to get this free body press off this turn. Not the body press, the Iron Defense, because that's what you want to start and do with Eric. Got 2 off in that last game, and you saw how much it was able to do, so probably just the same this time around, and utilize the tools that you've got in front of you now to really pressure things on David's side of the field.
Oh, and this is such a great opportunity for more pressure being dealt onto the Goldingo. Not quite enough to pick up the KO, but being able to put it within range is so good for Eric's board position right now. now, in combination with that iron defense. The knockoff dealing a 2-hit KO range, getting rid of the Assault Vest, but once again, right now, we're in a situation, Lee, that it just depends on which Golden Go is the faster one, because you can directly threaten a KO.
Yeah, and the other thing you've got to keep in mind as well is that the Coma Ore now has that iron defense, and it's increased damage to the body press. Is it going to be enough to get the Incineroar? Because potentially Eric has the option here where he can body press into the Incineroar, pick up the knockout there, and then go for that Shadow Ball into the Golden Go, pick up a knockout there, and that completely nullifies David's options for dealing with that Coma Ore.
But we do have a focus onto the Incineroar instead. This Golden Go being left on its own to go ahead and plot its little nasty plans. Body press combination picks up the KO onto the Incineroar so lightly. I don't think the critical hit mattered, if I'm completely honest. And that may be likely in anticipation of a more defensive approach from David's side. You know, Eric trying to read a switch in of that Incineroar perhaps into an Iron Hand in combination with a Protect coming out from the Golden Go, but no, he went for the setup there.
Yeah, going for that nasty plot. A really good idea to do that, because if you do lose the Incineroar to the double up there, maybe knowing that you had to go for that Shadow Ball, and potentially there was always the option of a Protect coming out from the Golden Go on David's side of the field, but taking the opportunity, get the nasty plot, and now you've got the Amoonguss next to you as well, so you can go for that Rage Powder, pull in that Shadow Ball that Eric has to really rely on here to get the damage onto the field, and then soak that up alongside the body press that could come out from that Coma Ore. And the thing is as well, without the Choice Specs item on the Golden Go on Eric's side of the field now, not going to be doing as much damage. The Amoonguss in a much better position right now to support David's Golden Go.
Yeah, and it may force Eric into trying to go a bit on the defensive here, and I think that's what we're exactly seeing, that Steel Terrestrialization being opted here on the Coma Ore, wanting to at least position itself to the point where it could take any sort of Make It Rains if there is a focus.
Yeah, and the Rage Powder coming out here, it is going to detract all of those. But we're not going to see the attack from the Golden Go on Eric's side of the field. It is going to just go for that nasty plot and boost itself up by 2 stages in its special attack. Big Shadow Ball coming out into the Coma Ore here, taking that special defense down 1 stage as well. Going to be susceptible to more damage the next turn, and we aren't going to see any attacks coming out here as another iron defense opted for by that Coma Ore on Eric's side of the field.
And this is the cool thing that we were talking about, this Golden Go Choice Specs, but it's got Trick as well as Nasty Plot. You've got Nasty Plot in case you need as a win condition to force a Choice Specs lock onto your opponent's side. So it being the faster of the two on Eric's end means that he may be trying to set up for a Make It Rain KO onto the Golden Go if there's enough damage output. Surely at +2 with Choice Specs, that would probably be the case, but I'm not sure if it's quite enough right now.
That's the thing. I think, is it enough alongside the double up from the Coma Ore? You need to get rid of the Amoonguss as soon as possible, because here it is, the Make It Rain. It's enough to take down and put that Amoonguss onto 39 hit points. So the Coma Ore in a position, +4 defense. Is the body press enough at this stage?
It may well be, even if this isn't a Amoonguss, because it is so low on HP, and all of a sudden you've got Mr. Eric Rios bringing back the momentum, and you see it in David's face right there. It looks like this is all over everybody.
It lost the Choice Specs item, so you think it hasn't got the damage output, but it also has access to Nasty Plot.
Yeah.
If you lose that item, you've still got the ability to boost that special attack, and it's exactly what Eric did, finding the key opportunity in the match to get that boost off and then set it up for the Amoonguss, for Eric to take a huge win in this Swiss round 13.